Welcome back into another episode of Top Shelf presented by Enterprise. Big trips, sudden detours, or last-minute plans, whatever it is, we're here for it. 2025 is in the books. First calendar year of Top Shelf in the books.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Pat on the back for us. On to 2026, and we're sitting here post-World Juniors, and we're sitting here for the third straight year. Canada does not go to the finals, and they're eliminated by the Czechs. 3 straight years. So they won the gold, 2023, over Czech. And now
revenge tour has been significant.
It's been very handily. So for those of you guys who missed it or stopped paying attention to the tournament post Canada, they won the bronze over Finland. Sweden wins gold over Czechs. Yeah, Sweden's second gold in 44 years. I couldn't believe that. They won one 14 years ago.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
That was the Zibanejad when
he scored that's the last one, but for a team that has been so successful in terms of winning games, their record come the knockout round playoffs, whatever you want to call it, has been
unbelievable.
Horrible. It's crazy.
It is actually insane. With all the players they've produced too. Good for Sweden. Good for Sweden. So that's what happens when Canada goes home. Sweden wins it. But yeah, I want to go around the horn first of all and just kind of talk about some of our biggest takeaways. So we'll start with you, Josh. What was the biggest thing you took away from World Juniors this year?
So for Canada specifically, I think it's really puzzling how they didn't play their best goalie, in my opinion. Didn't play a single minute, and that's Joshua Ravensbergen we're talking about, the Sharks' first-rounder from last year. This is no disrespect to Carter George and Jack Ivankovic, who are good goalie prospects, but Ravensbergen is just a level above. He's 6'5". He's having a great year in the WHL. Carter George has struggled this year. I know his team's not doing great. Ivankovic is having a good year, but Michigan is just so stacked. I don't want to say anyone could play goalie behind them, but, I'm really puzzled that Ravensbergen never got a shot. Ivankovic didn't play well in that semifinal game against Czech. I know they were a little sloppy defensively, but there were some saves to be made out there. So that's where I'm sort of leaving this and wondering, why is that the reason?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, but I feel like Canada didn't lose because of their goaltending necessarily. And then, two, it's just difficult, and this is more, not a criticism of you. It's more just like a reality of the situation. When you're the third goalie and you're halfway through the tournament, what is it, 2 weeks since you've played a game, and then you get close, you get to the medal round. Are you going to put in a cold goalie? So it just becomes this awkward thing. But should they have put him out there in one of the first 2 games?
Yeah,
probably.
I think one of the first 3 games or round robin game. Because once you get past a certain point, it's okay, we can't put him in, like you said. So you kind of have to make your decision. But yeah, I'm just puzzled why he just never got a look at all in the tournament.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's. a lot of question marks for Canada, but I don't mind that one. At least they can fall back on something other than the forwards and defense, so we can go with that. John, biggest takeaway. What do you think?
Sweden, just a team that was greater than the sum of its parts. I feel like it was. They do have some high picks, but more or less, this was a team of line after line, pair after pair, just brought it. I didn't see big drop-offs. There were no times, at least, in the medal round. It took them a while to get going, kind of a slow start to the tournament. But once the game started to matter, they started to peak as a group. And, whether it was goaltending or the way they cycled the puck or their forechecking or their net front D, everything was just tightened up. And then you had guys like Anton Frundell, who ends up putting up a ton of goals, and just the puck protection aspect of his game was so prevalent. Jack Berglund, their captain, honestly, didn't have a great read on him as a prospect coming into this tournament, and now I was kind of blown away.
He's a very good player.
Yeah, a Flyer second rounder that I'm going, this is an NHLer every day of the week, in a couple years from now. And you just go down the list, Bjork, Eklund, the forward group just had so many weapons, and not in a traditional sense where it's these are one-shot scorers necessarily. They just two-way players, and they all came together. And I also was thinking, after things wrapped up with the gold medal, I'm is this sort of the formula for Sweden to win at the Olympics as well? Where they're not going to out-talent Canada or the U.S., but if they happen to put forth sort of these games that are just so, they're so well coached, they're all sort of dialed in, they have enough talent to defeat the sort of Titans. That's not to discredit Sweden, they have a ton of talent, but compared to the U.S. and Canada at the Olympics, it'll be difficult to beat them in a gold medal game. So that also sprang to mind was is there sort of a recipe here, a template here?
those first 2 periods last night were just so clinical.
Yes.
I think they allowed 11 shots through 40 minutes. Like just a coach's dream of how you would want a team to play.
It's the perfect like encapsulation of the difference between Canada and Sweden and like why Canada really didn't win. It's just the like how well oiled they are and just how they looked against Czechs. Canada's giving up 1,000 goals against them. Meanwhile, Sweden's barely giving up any shots. It's just I think it's a difference in mentality, and at this level, when players aren't fully like developed and they're not all there, and it's just a lot of skill thrown all together, that's when a team like this Sweden team can just walk through the tournament because they're just way more well-oiled than just a bunch of like talented guys all thrown together in a big pot. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Kyle, biggest takeaway, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me here, kind of looking the trends of the tournament going forward as well, is the state of USA, right? Because coming into this year, it was like, can they three-peat? They just got their first back-to-back gold medals. Can they win their first gold medal on home ice? Can they three-peat for the first time, of course, having never won 2 back-to-back the year prior? And I think it was a pretty disappointing tournament overall for the United States. Obviously, a crazy game where they end up losing to Finland. But for me, looking ahead now, I think this golden era of U20 hockey for the United States is over for the time being. You had the back-to-back gold medal performances. You have dominant showings from guys like Cutter Gauthier and Ryan Leonard and Gabe Perreault and Trey Augustine, Zeev Buium, all these guys these past couple of years. And this year it was like, if you're going to win gold, it's probably James Hagens having an outrageous tournament. And you look ahead now, and Hagens is now aged out, and you look to this upcoming draft, and there's 1 or 2 guys at the top of the draft. You're like, okay, maybe these guys can help this team going forward. But in terms of being like the clear-cut gold medal favorite like they were 2 years ago and last year, I don't see that coming for the United States, especially we talked about it before the tournament with where kind of the NTDP is, where you look at the first round projections and the top guy from the NTDP is a guy that's left the NTDP to go to the WHL. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the United States fares over these next couple tournaments. Could they go out and surprise? Absolutely, because we see teams go out and surprise all the time. But I think this golden era for the United States of these top 15 draft picks and going out and starring at the World Juniors, at least for the next 2 to 3 years, I think this era is definitely over, and it's going to be a much more challenging couple of World Juniors coming up for the United States.
Well, and even if you trickle it, say, up to the Olympics, not to keep going back to the Olympics, but the U.S. is in a golden era right now in terms of the amount of talent they can put on an Olympic team. Yeah. If you look 4 years, 8 years from now, they don't have a Bedard, they don't have a Schaefer, they don't have a Celebrini. Even Sweden has Leo Carlsson, who's like a legit superstar. Who is it for the U.S.? Is it Lane Hudson in that age group of like 21 and under? Is it Will Smith? Does Luke Hughes put it together? Like, I don't see one like guaranteed slam dunk like superstar to like lead that next generation. And obviously, you know, Matthews and Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes, like these guys are going to be around for a while, but at some point they're going to age out. And I wonder, like, what does the next generation look like?
Yeah, and it's a bit strange considering like that crop of guys they had a few years back with the Caulfield, Zegras, Jack Hughes,
yeah, that stacked 19.
Yeah. Those guys, like
Nasty
you see that get rolled out, and you see, you know, the slightly older guys, the Matthews, the Eichels, and stuff. We've said it 1,000 times on the show, but like as a Canadian, I'm getting worried about the States, and it's weird to see it kind of.
It was every year.
Oh
too.
My God, they were so good, and so it's like they're not stopping, and now to see a performance like this and to look ahead and really not see much, it makes me feel better, that's for sure. But
and that's not to say it's going to last or anything like that, because it won't. But a couple of underwhelming years in a row, like I don't think we're going to see the U.S. as like the gold medal favorites probably until they're hosting the tournament again, which is in like 2031. So I think it's going to be a stretch of a few years here.
Works for me. I can say that. Sorry.
Pure homer mode.
All the Americans watching, I'm sorry, but I'm okay with that.
I don't think you're sorry at all.
No, I'm not sorry at all. So that's the team talk. I want to switch gears quickly to who impressed you guys the most, because obviously like this is the one stage, maybe in like honestly all of the major sports in I would say North America, where like you really do get the best chance to boost your stock, tank your stock, but like you don't really get a collection of the best draft prospects all together like this. So who impressed you guys the most? We'll start. It doesn't have to be NHL draft prospects, obviously, but we'll start with you, Josh. Strongest impression from this tournament. What player was it?
How can we start with anywhere but the MVP of the tournament, Wojtek Cihas? Yes, I practiced saying that a few times. But I mean, this is a guy I didn't know a lot about going into the tournament. Admittedly, I'm sure a lot of hockey fans are the same way. He really impressed me in that semifinal game against Canada. Scores 2 huge goals. Yeah. Really relentless, hardworking winger. Second-round pick of the Kings. I think they got a good one. He didn't have a great gold medal game, but the whole team was kind of smothered by Sweden there, so we'll give him a break there. But yeah, he had an awesome tournament. I thought he was very noticeable in every game leading up to the final.
It's always interesting when you have these guys playing pro in Europe, and then they get the opportunity to go back and play at the U20 level and get to go from being these kind of third or fourth line guys pro and get to be first liners at the junior level again. And it's especially interesting for Chihas because after this tournament, he's staying in Canada. He's going to the WHL with the Kelowna Rockets. So can he take this tournament and go and show it at the WHL level? And all of a sudden, he goes from this late second round pick who's like, we'll see what he becomes. And he can really, after this tournament and performance, if he continues this into the WHL, he can really level up his stock as a prospect, not just kind of at a small world junior tournament, but kind of overall.
Yeah, he looked really good. There's a few guys on that Czech team where I was like, obviously,
like that one goal against Canada where he just bullied the defender. I forget who it was, and then top shelf,
Clearly, Czechia's best forward.
Yeah, absolutely. John?
I'm going to go away from draft eligibles or just go into a guy who actually is coming from the NHL to the World Juniors, Zane Parekh. So 9th overall to Calgary, has had some, NHL time, but just hasn't really popped off the page like maybe some expected, but, he's still so young. But you put him in this tournament and, you think, heading into the tournament, okay, is he going to get his swagger back? Because not only has, the NHL tenure not gone as planned, but also he wasn't on the team last year, just completely left off. Well, guess what? He leads the tournament in defenseman scoring and leads all Canadians in a single tournament, most points all time. Just incredibly impressive from that end. And he was running both power plays. He was out there the entire time.
They needed him to.
Yeah, and he has this wicked wrist shot and just this sort of ability to change the game in an instant. And, we were talking about comparables before we started filming here, so I'm going to be sort of talking about both mouths in terms of, the pros and cons of them. But, when I look at Parekh, I see, the spectrum as John Klingberg, and Erik Karlsson. And I thought after this tournament, I'm starting to edge him closer to Karlsson. I'm not saying, Karlsson's the first ballot Hall of Famer, et cetera, et cetera. But, in terms of the dynamic quality, it's higher than I thought. And so you take those mistakes with it. He's always going to make mistakes. Hopefully he cleans up, some of the defensive stuff. But, I think, he's inching past the Klingberg stage, assuming that he can really get going at the NHL level, and so huge for the Flames. I mean, this is a team that we talked about constantly lacking. Maybe Parekh isn't quite a superstar, but lacking a star, dynamic type of player who can change a game in an instant. So he was super impressive.
Yeah. His edge work and confidence with the puck is so fun to watch. Every time Canada was on the power play, I'm honestly saying to myself, give it to Parekh because I want to just see what he does next because he's that dynamic with it.
Yeah, can walk a blue line and just work it down low. And I don't know where you guys land on this, but there was a weird news cycle with Parekh this last week where he came out, he's like, hey, I like to show my personality. I like to grow the game. Back in Calgary, I'm kind of told to be a robot. I'm paraphrasing here. And then his teammates find out about it. They're not happy about it. He issues an apology, basically just showing exactly what he said.
Yes.
And it's just what are we doing here?
I hate that he had to walk back.
And I get why he did. Personally, he's got to go back in that room and explain himself or whatever. But it's if you're a Flames player, maybe privately be like, hey, keep that out of the media. If you feel like you want to show your personality, just show it. Don't bring us into it. But for it to get back to him, I guess Mackenzie Weegar was texting him about it. It's come on. But first of all, the guy's trying to win a gold medal.
Right.
But also, I don't know. It's true. Most NHLers are robotic, and if he wants to break that mold, good for him.
Especially with what Calgary's got going on right now. It's not like they've got the winning formula.
Yeah, he's selling tickets.
Let him do whatever.
Yeah.
And especially for him, you mentioned the swagger part of it, it feels like he is a player that relies so much on having that swagger and having that confidence because he is a player where he's giving a lot back defensively, but when the puck is on his stick in the offensive zone, he can make magic work. And so when a player's feeling it and he's getting to be his own self and give that personality, I think it matters for everyone, but I think it matters even more for a player type like Parekh.
Yeah, when he's playing well, you see the camera pan to him on the bench and he's just smiling. He's talking to the equipment guy. if you're Craig Conroy, the GM, like you want to feed into that. You want your dynamite defenseman to feel good out there.
Yeah, 1,000%. Last but not least, Kyle, strongest impression. Who do you got?
For me, I'm going to this draft class, and for me, it's Vigo Bjork, a player who coming into this tournament, coming into this draft year, really overall had a lot of questions because he's a 5'9", 5'10" center, and it's like, especially recently in the NHL and in these drafts, so many teams are going to these toolsy big players. And like last year, I don't think a single defenseman listed under 6 foot was drafted, like things like that. And the closest comparable to that at forward, of course, is down the middle at center. And so as the year was progressing, it felt like Bjork was being dropped down more and more draft boards. And then you get to the semifinal game, and he leads all Swedish forwards in ice time, plays over 28 minutes, has the 4 breakaways in that semifinal game, can't bury any of them. But I was just so impressed by how relied he was as an underager at this tournament, his speed down the middle, just kind of how he was involved in all 3 layers of the game. Like, he's just a player that looks like a player. And even though he's an undersized center, I think he can make an impact in the NHL down the middle. And I think he did a lot for himself, cementing himself as at least a top 15 prospect in this draft class. I think he should be higher than that, certainly. But again, the knock on him is going to be size. That's going to remain. But I think he did a lot to quiet some doubters with this tournament performance, because it is extremely impressive on the gold medal team to be an undersized center, underager, and basically be the guy that's leaned on most at 5-on-5. Like, that's extremely impressive.
Yeah, there's not really a much better way to boost your stock. Like, that's what this stage is for. And so
that's what you can do at this tournament.
Exactly. For a guy to do that, really impressive. On that note, shifting gears a little bit, no better time for us to finally get to look ahead to the 2026 draft that Kyle was alluding to for the first time. So with that being said, let's get into our first official NHL 2026 mock draft presented by Enterprise. We hopped into Tankathon to simulate the teams because obviously we're not going to do this, by reverse standings or whatever. There's a draft lottery for a reason. Didn't really spit out anything too crazy. So here's the draft order that we have. We'll just do the top 10 picks here. First, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Calgary, Chicago, Utah, St. Louis, Nashville, the Rangers, the Jackets, and the Sharks. With that being said, you are on the clock. Josh, who is the first pick of the 2026 NHL draft heading to Vancouver?
This may come as a bit of a surprise. I've got Tynan Lawrence going number 1 to the Vancouver Canucks.
Okay.
Tynan Lawrence is a center. He's been playing in the USHL right now, but actually this morning it's announced he's going to go play at Boston U for the rest of the season. So that'll be really interesting to see him against elevated competition. I know Gavin McKenna is maybe the sexy pick and the consensus number 1, and he had a good World Juniors. I don't want to say it was like great or dominant, but he was good. Mm-hmm. But I think if the Canucks are picking up top here, they are so desperate for a center. It's been talked about ad nauseum in Vancouver. They need a center, and when you get the top pick, this is when you get a chance to draft one. And this is a draft where, again, this could really change. I think there's like 4 guys who could probably argue are worth the number 1 pick right now. But I'm going Tynan Lawrence, fill that center need, and especially projecting if he can really take off at BU and show he's in that same tier as McKenna offensively.
Yeah, when you look at this tier at the top, I do think it is a tier now. Like, it isn't McKenna clearly ahead. Mm-hmm. There's a group of kind of 3 or 4 players, depending on your feel on these players. For me, I'm not ready to have Lawrence as the number 1 yet. I get the positional need or the just having a center is more important at the top of a draft, just given positional needs and what wins you hockey games versus a scoring winger. But right now, I still look at McKenna as that player at the top of a draft class. As flawed as he may be as a player, you're not getting that skill. You're not getting that scoring sense. You're not getting that hockey IQ. Like, all of those first overall traits he still has in terms of the scoring element. You're not getting that anywhere else in the draft. You can make that argument for center as well. I think you can make that argument in terms of that winger as well. And so for me, I would have a very hard time still at this point passing on a player with that game-breaking potential like McKenna has. And I get there are concerns about his defensive game. I get there's concerns about his compete level. I get there are concerns coming out of the first half with Penn State with just the 4 goals to start the season. If he was playing in the USHL for these 10 games, I think he would probably be unquestionably the first overall pick. If he was playing on the same level as Tynan Lawrence right now, which makes the second half so much more interesting because the conversation now will be straight head-to-head with Lawrence going to the NCAA.
I think with Lawrence too, people, again, I'm not like this huge prospect guru or anything. Like, I've seen some highlights and he looks great. I've seen some tape. He looks
High-end
awesome.
skater.
High-end skater. High-end compete level is what everyone seems to rave about. And I think as the draft process goes along, teams are going to like that more and more and more and see him as this coachable leader guy you can really build around.
Conversation's getting interesting, at least the fact that it's not just Gavin
Oh,
McKenna
yeah.
for a lock. And, we're sitting
really
here on a
interesting
hockey
draft.
show saying Gavin McKenna's not going 1. John, do you have him going 2?
He's going too.
Okay.
He's going to the Winnipeg Jets. And to Cushman's point, you're not going to find higher upside in this draft. So I think that if you're Winnipeg, a team that struggles to recruit in free agency, struggles to convince players to come and waive their no trade clause, like they have to draft, upside. Otherwise, you're going to end up with what they have right now, which is a one-line team. And so, like, I'm a prisoner of the moment in a sense where it's like I look at what's going on right now with the Jets, the current Jets, and it's like they really need some secondary scoring. And obviously, McKenna, you'd hope, would be right up there as a top-line winger. And I honestly, I'm pretty confident projecting him there. It's just a matter of, is he a top 10 scorer in the league or is he like top 50 or top 25? So I think that the Jets wouldn't overthink it here. And I just think that, there's a couple flaws there with McKenna, but I feel like they're somewhat solvable. Like, I don't think he's going to become a Selke winner. I don't think he's going to be known as like, have an engine of like, Brandon Hagel or something. But he can improve those enough that maybe, the knocks on him about being too much of a perimeter player, he takes those down a notch. And he's not, he's more of a Patrick Kane. Like, Patrick Kane isn't, criticized for a lack of compete. He isn't criticized for like never getting to the dirty areas. He's so crafty that he can get away with being mostly
He's
perimeter.
good enough. He's that level of player. Yeah.
Like, is McKenna, like, I don't think McKenna's going to be Kane, but
He could be.
if you
He
think
has
about
the
it,
ability.
if you think about it in like sort of like the path that he could take, I would say there's some Kane qualities there, and you can look to him in terms of like how Kane has evolved over the years and not just been like fully 100% offense and really let off the gas when the puck's not on his stick.
Yeah. What's fascinating to me about this McKenna conversation is he's becoming a better player going to the NCAA. And yet, if he remained in the WHL and put up the numbers he would have been the unquestioned number 1.
The habits would probably be worse.
The habits would be worse. He wouldn't be as NHL ready, even though he would be the number 1 guy most likely because of the numbers he's putting up, which I think is probably an indictment on the scouting process or the just kind of general process there. But I think it's going to be very interesting to watch McKenna in the second half because he's had a chance to kind of reset a little bit at the World Juniors, put up a point in every single game here, even though he hasn't got kind of that World Junior rub that maybe some other players had in the past.
He didn't really take over many games in the way that you would like.
The closest to that was the bronze medal game where he put up 4 points. But again, it's something where you look, he didn't have kind of that signature game, even though he racked up points throughout. And you look at his performance compared to all other first overall picks, it's better than almost all of them.
Right.
There's like 2 or 3 guys that actually performed at the World Juniors in their draft year better than him. And so I think that's something that's important to remember, kind of because of Connor Bedard and what he's done so recently. But this is a guy that is still an elite offensive player. And I think if somebody does pass on him at number 1, again, with the information we have right now, I think that's a decision somebody ends up regretting longer term.
Yeah,
but
James,
there's a lot that can happen in the second half with Lawrence going to BU, with Stenberg continuing to play. There's a lot of things that can change right now. There's clearly a tier of like 3 or 4 guys if you want to throw a defenseman in there. But I think if somebody passes on McKenna at number 1, I would love to see what that McKenna revenge tour looks like.
Leave
Oh,
it
no
to
kidding.
the Canucks to do it, though.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Again, this is not who we would take. This is who we think this team would take.
Well, yeah, the Canucks are.
It's a legitimate conversation.
Yeah.
The Canucks are one of maybe 5 teams in the league that I would feel fairly confident would pick for position at first overall, which is a crazy thing to do. But they would talk themselves into it. But any smart GM should look at this from the perspective of like, okay, let's remove the hype. Let's remove like sort of like the buzz around McKenna and sort of how he's maybe not lived up to expectations, and look at the player. Where does he project to? What is he going to look like in 5-10 years? I don't care if his draft year wasn't like magical or some like amazing, endeavor that he embarked upon, right? So I think cooler heads will prevail, and we are at mid-season. Like by the end of the season,
A lot will
we'll see
change.
what happens with him at Penn State and sort of how the narrative changes in that respect.
I do like to fit in Winnipeg
Oh,
for
yeah.
a guy from UConn.
Yes.
Like,
That's
very,
cool.
very similar.
Yes.
There you go. You got a little home cooking there for Gavin McKenna. Third up.
It's not even remotely close. The
just,
only
you
thing
know,
that's similar is it's cold.
Yeah.
Both cold. I think the market size. He's
Thousands
not
of
from a big
kilometers away.
Canadian city. That's where my head was. I was like, yeah, this feels like a good thing to say. Let's move on from that. Third on the list, Kyle, Calgary Flames. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this one's a lot easier. Where for the Flames here, again, they continue to look for these kind of game changers for this roster. And even though it isn't probably the center they would prefer, maybe he could end up playing there in the future. Ivar Stenberg, I love this player. He plays so strong on the puck. I think you saw him really excel in the meaningful games for Sweden at this most recent tournament as well. Like
He was awesome last night.
against the United States, one of his best games. Against Finland, one of his best games. And then against the Czechs, I think his best game. And when you factor that in with the fact that he's also playing against men right now on a historic, literally historic scoring pace in the Swedish league, I think he ticks all the boxes of being that guy that can make an NHL impact as soon as next season. He's a winger right now, not a center. Maybe he can play center because of some of the things that we've seen in his skill set. But I think overall, with the board going the way it is here, Stenberg's the easy number 3 here.
Yeah, I
arguments?
totally agree. I mean, that pass he had to, I think it was Beaumodin last
Yeah.
night on the third goal, like just completely power move, showing off the speed. Like
Had the puck on his stick for like 12 seconds.
I see a lot of traits too. Yeah, like you said, where he could maybe shift to center at some point. I'm sure he played it a lot growing up. Now on a men's team, obviously he's not, but
Crazy numbers in the SHL.
Really, really good.
24 points in 25 games. Like we mentioned it before the tournament as well, but it's like he's like 2 points away from Leo Carlson's entire draft year production. And look at what
Wild.
Carlson's done right
Yeah.
now, right? Like things
So
like that.
My question would be, second half of the college hockey season, now that Lawrence and McKenna are both playing together, they both, they don't look awesome. Is there any world where we could see Stenberg go one?
Oh yeah,
Without a
I think
doubt.
so.
Like
Yeah.
for me, the question right now was more between McKenna and Stenberg.
Yes.
Lawrence, I think we have to see a little bit more from him in the back half of the season, although he's a lot younger than both of these guys. So there's a bunch of different factors here. They're all in the same tier. But if somebody's looking for a bit more of a complete NHL ready type, I can see a way that people fall in love with Stenberg's.
Yeah, no, I like it. Okay, fourth up on the board, Chicago Blackhawks, my pick. I'm going with Keaton Verhoff. I think this guy was closer to the first overall conversation a few months ago. He's kind of dwindled down a little bit. Not the best showing in the World Juniors, but I mean, it's tough when you're getting scratched for games considering.
17-year-old defenseman, very tough.
Yeah, very young, and he still put up 4 points, 5 games, and he's playing North Dakota, playing a lot in North Dakota. He looks great over there. Don't want to blow things too far out of proportion, but he's got 11 points in 16 games. It's the same points per game as a guy named Cale Makar in the same age season. So,
Okay.
So just throwing that out there. But I think far and away the best defenseman in this class, the most upside. Looking at both sides of the puck, like he's not exactly a Zane Prek, I don't think, on the defensive side. So.
He made some elite passes in this.
Yeah,
game.
and his
Great
offense
vision.
looks good.
like he was never going to play big minutes because Canada was so loaded on the right side of the blue line. But I thought in his limited action, I thought he was really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he's still like managing 4 apples in 5 games at that stage with the limited role that he had. More than enough for me to be like, okay, he's still, he's going to be in that top 4. He's going to be the best defenseman off the board. I think a Chicago Blackhawks team could really still use anything, so I think they'll happily take a guy like that to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit more. Super happy with Verhoff going there at 4.
Yeah, Verhoff, Levchinov, 1-2 on the right side would be very fun.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Yeah, that's the top 4 picks. On to pick 5, Josh. We've got Utah picking there. Who do you got there?
I think the draft really opens up here. There's a lot of ways Utah could go. I mean, not just because it's midseason and things are a little fuzzy, but
Super
like
separate.
that. Those top 4 players seem to be kind of in that top tier,
Yeah.
and then it's really open. So, but I'm going Alberts Smits, Latvian defenseman. Dare I say he could be the best player out of Latvia since Sandis Ozilic.
Now we're cooking. Let's go.
This guy's a 6'3" defenseman, really offensive, not unlike Sandis Ozilic. Really rushed the puck. I thought he was very noticeable in the World Juniors, playing big minutes for a Latvian team as a 17-year-old. I think there's a lot of tools to like there. Really good skater, great size. Yeah, I think Utah would be happy to take him here. Utah loves the big toolsy players as well.
Well, and he has the advantage or disadvantage, how you look at it, that he's going to play in the Olympics. Like, is he going to get roasted and teams start looking around? I don't know. Or does he show well as a really young player.
It's
on a
fascinating
minnow.
because 4 years ago, the Olympic conversation was very different. But the Olympics significantly impacted the first overall pick decision with Juraj Slavkovsky going off
Yeah, you're right.
at the Olympics and becoming the #1 pick. Obviously, Latvia's probably not going to do that kind of thing, and Smits probably isn't going to play the kind of role that Slavkovsky did 4 years ago for Slovakia. But if he can play even third pairing minutes, or maybe push up the lineup over the course of a tournament, because he has that raw upside that just really you don't have on a Latvian blue line. If he can get into some of those games and play against NHL talent and impress, like I think there's a path to him pushing Verha for that #1 defenseman in this draft class. He's playing pro in the Finnish league right now. As we mentioned, he's going to go to the Olympics. Fascinating player.
Yeah, and the Mammoth, Danil Bu, Dmitry
Simashev,
Simashev, like
yeah.
they love these sort of giant players that
Yep.
have skill and have skating ability.
I'm glad you guys pointed out the Olympic thing too. I don't think there's like for a player at his age, I don't think personally your stock can tank going to the Olympics.
No.
Because it's either
Yeah,
like
you're right.
he's
You're right.
17, obviously he's
Only
going to get
upside, I
toasted
think.
by Sidney Crosby, or it's like, oh my god, like this
Yeah.
guy's 17 and he's keeping up at all
Holding
with
his
these
own,
guys.
basically.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think it's awesome for anyone, and that's what's great about these. These smaller countries are going to go. They're probably going to lose by a lot, but guys can show it like that. Same way
Somebody
Slavkovsky
forgets the
did.
2014 Sochi Olympics.
guess so.
Skaletsky's back
Yeah.
on the roster
Yeah.
this year.
That
way.
game did
Yeah,
put him
number
on the
3
map.
goalie. Yeah.
Canada wants nothing to do with Latvia.
Yeah.
He did
It
shut
is
the door.
crazy how they just continue to give them problems at the World Juniors every year.
Shout out Latvia, man. On to pick number 6. We have the St. Louis Blues picking there for now. John, who do you got there?
Sioux Greyhounds defenseman Chase Reed. Really fun development story of a guy who was started last season as a number 4 defenseman on an NAHL team, like just below the USHL in the States. Ends up with the Sioux Greyhounds midseason, immediately takes off, started playing, top pair minutes, and has just continued on his trajectory. And, great skating, size, sort of this like ability to manipulate the game. I just think, the Blues are trying to rework their blue line, whether it was like Broberg or Mayu. Like they've really sort of just zeroed in on that, whether, for good or bad. And so I think that this is not only best player available, arguably, but also I feel like the Blues are going to pick,
Feels
if
like
they're
a
in this
St. Louis
spot, they want a
defenseman.
defenseman.
Yeah.
I love the fit. I thought he was fantastic for the USA as well.
Yeah.
Played a much bigger role than I was expecting there. And for the World Junior tie-in, the only reason he ended up with Sioux last year was because at the time Andrew Gibson went to the Canadian junior team.
Right.
They had a spot that they needed somebody to fill in on the right side. Chase Reed comes in, impresses there. They end up trading Gibson, and he's completely floored since then.
Yeah, he looked good, especially for his size. Like I saw a video pop on my feed of like an ISO shift of him that he ended up scoring on, and I was just like so
Very
impressed.
fun player.
Yeah, he was awesome to watch. A lot of upside there, and again, just a St. Louis Blues defenseman. They've got like 9 of these guys. I feel like cooking. So I like how that fits a lot. Pick number 7, the Nashville Predators. Still they're still at the bottom of the standings. Another year in a row here. Who do they go with this year?
Yeah, a few teams that we've seen a lot at the top of
Yes.
these drafts here recently. Let's go for a riser here this season. Caleb Malhotra for the Brantford Bulldogs. Played last year in the BCHL. One of these players who was taking advantage of being able to play in the Canadian Junior League before going to the NCAA, and he's completely flourished this season. 50 points in 36 games. He's on a very similar scoring pace to what Jake O'Brien did last year, and he ended up being a top 10 pick. One of the few top-end centers in this draft. You look at the top 15 projections, there's not a lot of guys that are clear-cut centers going forward. Part of the reason why Lawrence went number 1 here. But for Malhotra, you obviously have the family ties with Manny there, his father. Also, if you're not aware, his uncle, Steve Nash, as well.
Wow.
So great
Love
bloodlines.
that.
No kidding.
And just the trajectory for me, being great last year in the BCHL playoffs, coming to the OHL, being a top-end player for a top-end team as well. I love the projection here as like a 6'2", 6'3" center with skill skating. I think he really fits the bill as this kind of like back half of the top 10 easy kind of projection here as the next best center for me behind Lawrence here. So I love the fit here with Nashville.
Is he as good in the face-off dot as his old
Yeah.
man?
He is not yet. It's one of the things that
I'm sure it's something
they've
Manny's
talked
gonna work
about,
on
and I'm
with him.
sure it's something that he is going to need to do at the NHL level because you can't be worse at faceoffs than your dad, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh,
No, seriously. I mean, talk
embarrassing.
about like growing up practicing face-offs against that, no wonder he's probably not great. Yeah, he's losing them all.
Yeah, exactly.
He was so good. Yeah, I love that pick. On to my pick, 8th here with the Rangers. I don't even care about the fit at this point. I think they go.
That's the right standpoint, by the way.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rangers could do 1,000 things, and I think perfect time for a guy like Ethan Belchetz to go off the board. Josh said the same thing. We're no Kyle Cushmans when it comes to the prospect scouting, so I had to do a little bit of digging. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. This guy's like 6'5", 220, absolute like true unicorn. And we were talking about it pre-show. I said I want to save my comp.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Eric Lindros.
Oh,
Eric Lindros.
So I jokingly said Mario Lemieux was the comp, and honestly, it wasn't far off
Just
from
a
what he
step
went
down.
with.
And you know what's funny is I was combing through like the current state of the league, and I was like maybe like an Alexei Protas, like a big guy, and I was like. Eric Lindros.
love it.
But, you know, former first overall pick in the OHL. He was lighting it up at the start of this year. He's slowed down since. I think he's like around. He's just over point per game, 25th in the league in points right now. And I think the reason why, because he was, like, from what I was reading, like, he was kind of up there in the conversations. Like, maybe not right there with McKenna, but at the top. He's a lot more unpolished than the rest of these guys that we've named so far because his skating ability, he's still very raw. But for a guy his size to be, you know, he's like a power forward with hands, like with the skill on the offensive talent. He's no slouch on defense. Everything that comes with this guy, I don't think he'll fall past 8. He'll be in the top 10 for sure, at least if he does. Like, there's just so much to like. And he's one of these, he's one of those players, like you see it all the time. Like, you know, you got to put some work in, so you hope that he gets drafted to a team that can really develop their players well. But there's not a lot of times that Eric Lindros 2.0 comes around, right?
Goes back.
So
Oh,
even
I
if,
love
like,
it.
you know, even if it is a huge gamble come draft time, I think if I'm a GM for any of those teams, like a Rangers team, you know, like a Predators team who just can't seem to figure out what to do, take a swing on a guy like that.
And
like the
Nashville last year just went with Brady Martin, who, even though he
Yes.
isn't this size, is that wrecking ball type player.
Exactly.
And for Belchetz, as you mentioned, has slowed down a little bit, which is kind of a reason why some guys have jumped him here. But you look at this draft board, there's nobody with that size profile.
No.
And if anyone is going for that size profile, which a lot of GMs
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
would not be shocked at all for this guy to go in the top 5
absolutely. It's like for Rangers fans out there, here's Matt Rempe, but he can actually play hockey. He doesn't just
Rempe or
still. Like
Lindros.
we said,
Spectrum is
Rempe,
Somewhere
wide.
between the
We've
two.
had Protis, we've had Lindros. Oh, I love it.
I like Belchetz, man. Let's keep an eye on that guy. We got 2 picks left for Josh and John here. Josh, you're at number 9 with the Blue Jackets. Who do you got? Probably not another Eric Lindros.
Definitely not another Eric Lindros. This is a guy Cushman talked about earlier in the show, Vigo Bjork.
Yeah.
Completely opposite size profile.
Yeah.
Tiny
Not
guy.
quite a big behemoth like Belchetz, but this is a guy maybe entering the World Juniors. A lot of people I think had him in that 15 to 32, maybe back half of the first round range. I think he played himself into the top 10 conversation at this tournament. Again, like Cushman said, really intelligent, smart, fast, effective two-way player. I know he's been playing. He's a center, but reminded me a lot of Eklund on Sweden as well. They just looked really similar on the ice. Both really trustworthy players. I think Columbus would be happy to add him to that forward fold. Could be in the NHL, I think, in a couple of years maybe.
Yeah, I think he's top 10 on talent. I'm still not certain he's going to end up going top 10 just because of that size profile. But I think he showed at this tournament, talent-wise, he's a top 10 player in this class.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all you need to do is just watch the tape. Like he looks.
Yeah, watch the tape,
He
exactly.
looks so good out there. And pre-tournament, yeah, like you're saying, maybe nobody knows who this guy is. Boom, top 10 pick in our eyes at least.
Just don't put him on it for a breakaway.
Yeah.
And
He
then
needs
the
to work
shootout,
on his
too.
breakaway.
Yeah,
a bit.
and then they send him out first for the shootout, and he's
awesome.
The same
0 for
move.
5. Oh.
It is awesome.
Needs to work on his breakaway moves a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
But
What a World Juniors though in terms of like the wacky, chaotic nature and like it's always really entertaining. And then you obviously have like the teenager impact of like Martone shenanigans, and then like people crying and
Double
It was
penalty
just like a
shot.
classic World Juniors in terms of just
Yeah.
A
double
lot of
IHF
World
officiating.
Juniorisms.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Last pick on the board, San Jose Sharks. John, you've got it 10th overall. Who's the last guy on our
So
mock draft?
what was different about this World Juniors is all the draft eligibles, and I'll go to another one, Carson Carrolls, and he didn't play a ton for Canada, but if I'm the Sharks here, I have such a good pipeline. Like the NHL team is on the rise. I just sort of go with best player available here. Prince George, Cougars kid. we talk about like the size and everything, and Brady Martin, and this guy's a farm kid too, and like that kind of you know
That matters for
when
these
you when
guys.
you get into combine interviews, it's like, oh, tell us about yourself, and then the guy starts talking about how he's feeding the pigs or whatever, and everyone lights up, right? So,
By the
you
way,
know.
a suspicious amount of Martin family members at the World Juniors for a guy that
Who was
couldn't.
watching the farm?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
wondering
I'm
the
saying.
same thing.
I guess Winter, you don't have to or something. I don't know.
That's a great
the
question.
conspiracy theory.
What do
We
I know
need
about
investigative
farming?
journalism here.
I think we do. But he kind of works on both sides of the puck in terms of like being a breakout machine and then being able to break up sort of the opposing attack with his rush defense. So I don't know. It's one of those things where the Sharks have like an embarrassment of riches where you just go, let's go best player available here.
I think they do need more D probably in the pipeline too, especially someone
bigger
who's
need.
more of a steady. I don't want to call him a stay-at-home, but just more of a two-way guy. Like
Yeah.
not overly flashy or high risk,
Yeah.
but just seems like a very solid player.
Good fit here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah, I like it. All right, there we go. We got our first mock draft out of the way. Feel awesome about it, honestly, with all the junior.
Well, you
hockey
have
we just
Eric
got to watch.
Lindros 2.0.
You got Eric
Come on.
Lindros. You got Gavin McKenna. Yeah, you got a lot of
Maybe Matt Rempe.
Maybe the best Latvian of all time.
Yeah.
best Latvian of all time. A lot to like. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and it's always great to do that like right after the tournament.
Yes.
Get to watch it all. You get to slot the guys in. So
No overreactions to the tournament.
No,
right
not
now.
at all.
no, could never. But yeah, we'll be doing that plenty more down the road. So we would also be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the passing of David Branch. 45 years as OHL commissioner?
Forever in junior hockey.
So awesome.
25 as CHL president. And honestly, what sticks out to me in terms of like his legacy and like, for one, like the person, he was very well respected and like high integrity and like pleasure to deal with. But then like in terms of what he did at the OHL and CHL level in terms of player safety, whether it was headshots, like really stiff punishments, fighting, really reducing fighting. And these are teenagers. Like,
Yeah, of course.
should they be fighting all the time? Probably not. And that trickled up to the NHL. Like, if you think about it, there's less fighting in the NHL because guys aren't like practicing fighting at lower levels. He really leaned into skill and, really sold the game at lower levels. Like a ton of generational type or superstar players came out of the OHL or WHL or QMJHL and just a fixture. Like,
Yeah.
he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, it would be silly if he was not inducted.
Absolutely.
Synonymous with junior hockey for
Yeah.
literal generations.
Yeah, so important to the development of youth hockey and everything they did. So on that note, 2-episode week for us this week. Looking forward to it. We're going to do a second half of the NHL season preview. A lot to look forward to, especially with the Olympics coming up too. So we'll see you guys for that on Thursday. For everyone who's back here in 2026 helping out with the show, always appreciated. This has been Top Shelf presented by Enterprise.